yo, what's up? So I thought about it and I decided that I just like want to go in hot. Just want to go in guns blazing, let's get in here. And the first thing I think I want to talk about is dun, 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 social media. Like being mindful of what you post, because that's actually very important. Like people can lose jobs over what their significant others post. Now, usually when I say this, people think of politics. So they think I'm talking about like, you have to be apolitical because your spouse is apolitical. I did not say that. I did not say that. We all know who I voted for this time. Yes. Biden. I voted for Biden. Y'all, they're both old. Let's be honest. We were voting for their VPs. Anyways, so that I don't think is necessarily bad. I know they don't want you to down talk on the commander, and that's why we're seeing a lot of stuff happen right now with I'm gonna leave January 6th alone. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm actually gonna leave it alone. But that is also in part because of my husband's work. And you're not really supposed to kind of bash on other people. Do people still do it? Yes, they do. I've seen people ruin their entire career on TikTok. And when I say career ending, I mean you are getting dishonorably discharged, my guy. Everyone knows your commander's name right now, my guy. There was one guy in particular. I had favorited a video, I think it was, because I was like, I'm gonna come back to this because I can't wait to see the shitstorm. And I think within like 24 hours, maybe 36, they were circulating the commander's name and number to call into about his racist behavior. So again, let me say this. When you act up, you gonna get snatched up and they will find out, okay? Saying that you have an affiliation, not the worst thing if it's to a political party, but if it's to a hate group, yeah, you're gonna get wrecked, just point blank period. So like be mindful. On that note too, even if it's not something as serious as that is, if you are going to post pictures, be mindful again. Do not break the fucking rules bare minimum. If you're gonna break the rules, don't have evidence. So someone broke the rules and their spouse uploaded pictures of them being out of the country when they were not supposed to be out of the country. And guess what? Commander called them and said, hey, you know how you were supposed to take this like soft leave or whatever? Yeah, we need you back now. You have 24 hours to get back to my desk, like 24 hours from now. And it turns out that they were not able to do that. They first lied and said like, oh, sorry, like we're just not at that one location, we're in California. And then they were like, okay, well from California, you should still be able to get back to base within like 8 hours if you fly and you wait in the airport, blah, 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 blah. So after going back and forth, they're like, sorry, we're out of the country and we can't afford to buy another flight to get back in that amount of time. And they were like, yeah, we know, but we will see you as soon as you get back. And they were, I'm sure, reprimanded. And that's just a story from the grapevine. But I have seen things where I'm like, oh shit, like, yeah, y'all gonna get in trouble. And I sit back and I drink my tea and I mind my business. You gotta learn how to mind your business in this lifestyle too. So that is a fact. You gotta learn how to like keep your mouth shut. Ooh, which that's a perfect segue into the second one. People are only full of drama if you're around people who are only full of drama. Let me say that again for the people in the back, but let me slow it down. People are only full of drama if you surround yourself with people who are only full of drama. My friends and I, particularly both groups, not a whole lot of drama going on. Not a whole lot of red, okay? It's not that deep and it is not that serious. I told somebody this and I think that this is very true to this day. You do not want to make a bad reputation for yourself. So it is much better to just let go of certain things and just let it be and let it be what it is, and instead of getting into an argument with somebody about it or trying to shame somebody or trying to like one up them, because it's never worth it. It's just never worth it. For example, my dad graduated in, I think, in '86, and when I was on the plane coming home from Columbus, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, I ran into this guy who was sitting as a passenger to me. He was also a captain, and he mentioned something about the Air Force. I said, my husband's in the Air Force. I mentioned his plane. He was like, oh my gosh, like, I used to like fly that plane too, I think. And I was like, oh, did you fly it in the 80s? Because my dad flew in the 80s. And he's like, who's your dad? And I'm like, my dad is one of like 8 black people who's a pilot in Columbus in the 80s. Like, you know who I'm talking about if you met him. And he kind of went down a list, and I said my dad's name. He's like,
oh yeah, like I know him. Yeah, I remember that. Like, we both work for the same airline.
And I'm like, yeah. And he just spoke highly of my dad, but I'm saying that to say that happened in the 80s, very much obviously before I was born, and they still remember him. And I ran into this guy. It is a small, small world out here. Like, yeah, they're pilots, so it's an even smaller world, arguably. But it is a small, small world after all, and just be mindful that what you do, even at like, arguably a lot of people over here are like 25-ish, so what you do at 25 can affect the next 25 years to when you're 50 and how your reputation will precede you. So be mindful of that. So also when it comes to reputations, your reputation doesn't want to be smeared if you live on base. So let's talk about that. On-base living versus off-base living. So when you live on base, I think it kind of goes back into that whole, like, people aren't full of drama unless you stay around people full of drama. I have friends who live on base. They absolutely love it. And I will say that they're not full of drama. I'm not trying to shade anybody, but they're not full of drama. I'm part of the Facebook group in case there's like closures or in case certain things are happening that, you know, I wouldn't be updated to because I don't live on base. And some people really be putting their business out there. You know, the girl on like Facebook or on like Instagram who's like, don't talk to me, I'm going through a lot. Like, I don't want to be bothered. But she wants you to message her, and then like she's like, why did no one check in on me 2 weeks ago when I was going through it? Y'all fake. Those people are on the Facebook talking out their neck. I'm telling you now, again, do not mess around with that mess. It is not worth it. It's not integral to the experience of being a military spouse. Leave it and let it be. That is the one thing I will say that is probably the only negative about living on base, is that people stay in other people's business. But you can't stay in my business unless I allow you to get into my business. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So yeah, you can live on base and it can be a good experience, but for some people, if people are like, it's just too much drama, it's probably their drama that they're starting. I feel like I just got in trouble with the Milso community on YouTube, but like I said what I said and I mean it. As for living off base, I do like living off base personally. We don't have kids. That's another reason why people love to live on base. It is pretty safe for kids. Like, you have to do a background check just to live on there, so that's nice. And you can't just get onto base willy-nilly, so that's also a really great thing. And everything's centrally located, and you're home within like 5-10 minutes, so that's, again, really great. For me and work, which work will be the next thing I talk about, it just made sense to not live exclusively on base. It made sense to live close to base though. And then for us, because we were planning to go and explore Philadelphia, but then, you know, the Panaroso hit. So it just kind of made sense to live not on base. I also didn't want to feel like I was consumed with base culture, which again, if you don't need to leave base, you won't, because there's not really a reason to leave base. So I just wanted to be able to experience kind of life outside of it. Sometimes I wish I lived on it, because I do have friends that live on base and I want to hang out with them, and it's quite a drive to drive out there. But for the most part, it's all good, and I do really enjoy this experience. I think you get to see the area a lot more, and I think you get to experience a different side of life a little bit more if you live off of base. So if that's what you're looking to do, that can be really fun. PCSing is the worst. It's very difficult and it's very hard. I feel like the community on base is a lot more helpful, because like, I didn't know the first time I PCS that it could take 2 weeks to get your stuff. 2 weeks to a month. 2 weeks to a month to get the stuff that you packed up. So having like people who are able to rally around you is really nice. We did not have that here, but at the same time, we had a bunch of stores that are open 24/7 to go to. We had hotels if we needed to stay at a hotel that were really easy to get to, that weren't constantly full. And it's just like a different vibe, but I would definitely say live off base because I enjoyed it, but it's completely up to you guys. And moving from base life, like I mentioned, onto work life, this is something else that was talked about, but I don't think we talk about it enough, which is work life. Work life is so personal to an actual personal life. Like, your decisions, of course, affect you and your family, but sometimes there's outside circumstances that prevent you from having the work life you want. I have friends who are in the medical field, who are architects, who are scientists, who are engineers. I have friends who are teachers, who were nannies at one point, like really good nannies, and they had to leave their market, the area where their job was, to follow their significant other or their spouse. And it leaves you, especially if you're specified, it leaves you in a place where you can feel very upset and you can become very resentful and very angry and very just like raw to emotions that you probably never felt before. That's what happened to me, if I'm going to speak personally. The first 3 months, I could not find a job. I will say I was being very picky and choosy at the time. And that was back, like I moved up here in October, so probably like December. Yeah, so I guess it was only 2 months, but I couldn't find a job that I really liked, and I felt like paid what I was worth and all these other things. So my husband and I talked about it, and he's like, you were going to be a realtor in Dallas, like why don't you just become a realtor up in New Jersey? And I decided to do that, and that was a hell of an experience, especially because the panoramic view, the panini press, hit me in the face. And you know, hearing other people's stories, it's a very, very hard thing to decide. Like, I knew a lot of people, and this is like from like the 80s, 90s, 2000s. I knew people who had decided to stay put in one area because they had kids, and they didn't want their kids to keep moving around, and maybe their husband only had like 3, 4, 5 years left, and they said, we can handle the separation for this time period for these reasons. I had a mentor who I was close with decided not to marry her spouse until 10 years after, so he completed his assignment or his commitment. There's a lot of different variations of what a family will look like because of the time you spend in the military. Do not let anyone try to berate you or put you down for choosing a career, especially if you are a pilot's wife, because my husband is home half of the time, if I'm lucky. In February and in January. I saw my husband in January for 7 days, and I saw my husband in February for 4. Like, yeah, maybe, especially because I'm a specified person, maybe me staying in one area is better overall, you know? And I chose to move. I'm happy for the move, but I think about that even when I plan out my next steps in my own personal work life. Like, how am I going to do this? This is one of the reasons why I want to be a YouTuber. Yes, of course, everyone wants to be a YouTuber. But I want to be a content creator because I don't have to have an office. I don't have to have a specialized field. I don't have to get a certificate. I don't have to get a license. I don't have to change everything about what I just did for the past 3 years in order to maintain my job. And I mean, like, I also really like doing this, so, you know, like and subscribe or whatever. Okay. But that's something I would definitely mention to anybody. And overall, like, at the end of all of it, don't let anybody try to tell you how your experience needs to be. Don't let people tell you, like, in order to be a good wife, you have to move with your husband. That's not true. In order to be a good wife, you need to be a good person. You need to be happy with yourself, and you need